Hello, welcome along to episode 254, I do believe, of Adventures in Pop. My name is Simon Jacobs, and you are looking splendid. Well, here we are. It's late September, and I really should be back at school. I don't know how that got in there. This is quite an exciting episode because during the autumn, there's a kind of unprecedented number of releases coming out of this room from me and my various delightful partnerships and collaborations. And it's all kind of coming to a head in the next few weeks and months. So I thought what I would do, I know it sounds a bit dull, but it's not at all, is talk about the schedule. I know, who knew that you were going to be tuning in to talk scheduling with me? But here's the thing. What I really want to talk about are some of the decisions that have been made around artwork, titles of albums, and how I'm just trying to make sure that everything has its moment to shine and get a little bit of attention, I suppose, over the next few weeks. And bearing in mind, for major record companies, the autumn is, the big release period coming up to Christmas. And I know that sounds sort of rather ancient and traditional, but it's still kind of the case. The big releases tend to come out September, October, November, and not in December, by the way, because by the time you get to December, it's kind of too close to Christmas, which I know sounds bizarre, but a lot of the decisions I've been making, are also about making sure that everything's basically done, wrapped up and tied up by the end of November, on the basis that not much is going to happen in December. People are not necessarily out looking for new stuff in December, despite the fact, obviously, there's lots of shopping and panic shopping going on in December itself. Before we get into that, just very quickly, two things. One is, of course, please don't be left out. I don't want you to be the only one who's not subscribed to my channel, because that would just be, I don't know, you'd probably be crossing me that I didn't tell you that you were the only one. So look, I'm warning you now. It's just going to look very weird. So join in. It's free. It's lovely. And I thank you straight away. Second thing is, in the last episode, we talked about Olivia Dean, this up and coming. I mean, she's pretty up and come already, but she is doing the business. Olivia Dean, British, Londoner, great voice, had a few hits already kind of simultaneously in the charts. And I did mention earlier this week when I did this episode that on Friday, i.e. today, because I'm recording this on Friday, the 26th, Olivia Dean was releasing her second, kind of proper album. And I've had a chance this morning to have a quick listen. I mean, it is still a quick listen, but I've heard sort of, every track, gone back to a couple of tracks again, and then I've gone and had a look at some of the reviews. Well, first of all, the reviews are uniformly excellent. And I would say she's done something really interesting here. She's managed to marry up something that is very kind of soulful and interesting, intelligent lyrics. She's kind of 26. We're kind of finding out about her life through her songs. And yet, at the same time, it's got this kind of soulful feel, and maybe even a little bit retro, but at the same time, it feels so contemporary and so pop. So I don't quite know how she's done it. I know, as I mentioned last time, she's got a load of writers in with her. I'm pretty certain that she's written most of the words. It sounds breezy, relaxing, easy, and yet it's really, really, kind of on point. So I think it's going to do incredibly well. I would urge you to go and have a listen. And, well done, Olivia Dean. So she's definitely, one to watch. I feel like I'm almost a bit late to this party. She's been around for quite a number of years, but this is a big moment. Second album, and I think it's going to go, well, planetary. So thank you, Olivia. Right, on to the next few weeks. I've put this together all on, I'm not a spreadsheet kind of guy. I was not very good at, Excel spreadsheets. So on a rather boring old Word document, I have put a thing that I'm calling the release schedule. And I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you in full and talk you through it, because this is quite interesting for me and I hope for you. What I'm basically showing here is that in yellow are the releases from me. In blue, releases from, actually it's just one release really, from Gold Hawk Foxes. In green, releases from Rothman and Jacobs. Because as I say, this is a really unprecedented kind of period where 3 albums are going to get released in the space of about 5 weeks. So that's really unusual. And with those albums, always there are a couple of tracks that get released with the album. And in the case of me, there's a whole bunch of new tracks that will get released with the album, and there's a couple more singles to go. So, there's more action for some than others. And at the same time, it gives me a chance to show you the artwork and tell you a little bit about the names of each of these albums. So the Gold Hawk Foxes album, which is kind of first up on the 17th of October, once we've got past another single from me, which is, this is only next week, October the 3rd. It'll Take a Miracle is my second single from my organic album. More about that in a minute. But first up is Gold Hawk Foxes and an album that we're going to call Do Not Feed the Foxes. And here is our fabulous artwork album cover. And along with Do Not Feed the Foxes are 2 tracks that you will not have heard before. They've not been released. One is called Love of My Life. That is going to be the single. And the second, which isn't mentioned here, is called Done With Being Done. They're both really good. They're both incredibly different from each other. But 17th of October, which is only 3 weeks from today, second Gold Hawk Foxes album, 12 tracks. 10 of them are already out there on Spotify and your favourite streaming platform. And they will be joined, as I say, by Love of My Life, the single, and Done With Being Done. And there you can see the Foxes of Gold Hawk in action on a make-believe stage with the heading, with the banner, Do Not Feed the Foxes. There goes the second album. I've got to say, I think it's really good, but then I would say that, wouldn't I? Because I think all of this is really good. Just a week later, October 24th, Rothman and Jacobs will release, I think it's a 10th single, We Are the People. Really interesting track. Obviously more about that when we get nearer to it. And then on October the 31st, just 1 week later, I'll be releasing my 3rd single from Organic. That's October the 31st. It's going to be called You Never Will. Quite a different sound. Again, very acoustic, quite mellow, lots of harmonies. And then on the 21st of November, so it's just a few weeks later, I think it's basically 3 weeks later, I'm going to release the whole Organic album. And there is the cover, Simon Jacobs Organic. It's going to come out with a couple of tracks that will be promoted as it comes out. One is going to be called Stone by Stone, which I think is going to be the main single on November the 21st. And the other one is going to be called Mr. Barman. Quite interesting. And that will also be out. But then with Organic, which is a little different from the other 2 albums here, basically there's going to be half an album there that you won't have heard. So lots of tracks to explore when that album hits the shelves, the hypothetical shelves on November the 21st. Okay. Then on November the 28th, this is the last bit of action before we get into the lull of December. Finally, and with much fanfare, comes the debut album from Rothman and Jacobs. And as I've joked over and over and over, 40 years in the making, finally seeing the light of day. Hence the title, Rothman and Jacobs, Better Late, ... You know the phrase, better late than never. Didn't even need to finish it. Better Late from Rothman and Jacobs, with a single called Didn't I Say, and another track on that album, the 12th track, which was going to be called Fields of Sunshine. And obviously, nearer the time, I'm going to talk more about those particular tracks. In fact, I've already had a chat with Johnny with the camera on to talk about all 4 of the last tracks, so that as we release them, I can pop in some footage of me and Johnny having quite a daft conversation about our final tracks on this album. So look, that's really good news. Better Late finally makes it before Christmas 2025. Who would have thunk it? And there you've got Organic. Better Late, there's the cover, the artwork that goes with it, the work that goes for Organic, the cover for Goldhawk Foxes, Do Not Feed the Foxes. And all I will add to this is that I'm hoping to line up a conversation which I want to share with you with one of the guys who's helping me do the promotion for my own music, so for the Organic album. Now, you might remember a couple of years ago, as I was releasing the final singles from Strange Alien, we're going 2 albums back, I worked with a PR company based on the South Coast. Now, I'm now back again with one of those guys in a different kind of company setting, and I've already had a chat with him about filming a conversation where I want him to explain to me and to you what it is they're doing promotion-wise, because I think this is really interesting. You know, it's such a deep mystery what goes on behind the scenes in terms of really legitimate promotion, and finding really useful, legitimate playlisting. And I think it's worth getting him to share it. Rather than him telling me and me telling you, I'd really appreciate it, getting my mate Dan from Reverie PR to come and talk to you about how it all works and what kind of little tricks they're playing that he might be prepared to share with the likes of you and me. So that's coming up. I think it'd be really interesting. And as I say, here's the schedule. So if you see me getting kind of breathless over October and November, because I've got to make a bunch of videos for these tracks, and make sure that all of the promotion is getting set up. And it's all very well, I've got these guys looking after my stuff, but there's still the Goldhawk Foxes music and the Rothman and Jacobs music, and none of which would deserve to slip down the cracks in between if I'm not very vigilant. So it's all got to have its moment to shine, and I know I can rely on you to have a little listen to all of this, and basically, please tell me if you like it. Tell me if you like it, and tell me if you don't like it. I'm old and ugly enough to not really get blown away if you tell me it's a load of old poo. I mean, I might disagree with you, but you're still perfectly entitled to tell me your opinion. So I'd really love to know what you think. Tell me the good and the bad. Just be balanced, really. You don't have to be generous and kind. You just have to be objective as you can be, and it's really useful to me. So thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back next week with, with the first of this list from this schedule. I'll be back next week with a video and the track itself called It'll Take a Miracle, coming out next Friday. The video's already in the can, and boy, I can't wait. See you soon. Bye-bye.